This place, the old Roman fort of Pevensey, was a fateful one for the English language. It was here, among other places, that the Frisians and other Germanic tribes had made landfall in the 5th century and introduced their own language. Now, in 1066, another wave of invaders was landing, the Normans. When in 1066 William, Duke of Normandy, sailed with his army to claim the English throne, he was sure he had right on his side. The English king, Edward the Confessor, had spent many years in Normandy, and in that time, contemporary sources say, had come to regard William as a brother or even a son, and had named him as his successor. Sensing his impending death and fearing rebellion at home, the childless Edward had dispatched Harold Godwinson, his wife's brother, and as Earl of Essex the richest and most powerful of the English lords, to Normandy to pledge loyalty to William. This Harold did, swearing on 2 caskets of holy relics. But when Edward did die, Harold, supported by the English nobility, had himself crowned in Westminster Abbey on the very day that Edward was laid to rest there. To the truculent and ruthless William, this was an affront. Invasion with maximum force, the only possible response. The armies met here, near Hastings. This is the spot where, traditionally, Harold fell, fatally pierced through the eye with an arrow. The site was later named after the engagement, but it's named not with an English word, like fight, but with a word from the language of the Norman victors, battle. Harold would be the last English-speaking king of England for 3 centuries. On Christmas Day, 1066, William was crowned in Westminster Abbey, in a service conducted in English and Latin. William spoke French throughout. A new king and a new language were in authority in England. Enemy. Castle. Castle was one of the first French words to enter the English language. The Normans built a chain of them to impose their rule on the country. This magnificent castle at Rochester was one of the first to be fortified in stone. By blood, the Normans were from the same stock as the Norsemen who'd invaded in earlier centuries, but they no longer spoke a Germanic language, rather what we'd call Old French, which had grown from Latin roots. Many of the words they spoke would have been very strange to the native English, but would quickly become unpleasantly familiar. Our words, army, archer, soldier, garrison, and guard, all come from the conquering Norman French. French was the language that spelled out the architecture of the new social order: crown, throne, and court, duke, baron, and nobility, peasant, vassal, servant. The word govern comes from French, as do liberty, authority, obedience, and traitor. The Normans took the law into their own hands. Felony, arrest, warrant, justice, judge and jury all come from French. And so do accuse, acquit, sentence, condemn, prison, and jail. It's been estimated that in the 3 centuries after the conquest, about 10,000 French words colonized the English language. They didn't all come in immediately, but the conquest opened a conduit of French vocabulary that's remained open on and off ever since. Today, French words are all around us. City, market, porter.
Here we are, look, one fabulous salmon, weighs about 14 pounds. It is a fabulous fish. We've got some fabulous mackerel, they've come up from Aberdeen. Next to them are the oysters, they come from the Essex coast. Sole.
Pork, sausage, bacon.
Nice bit of fruit, the oranges, the juicy lemons.
Grape, tart, biscuit, sugar,
Cream.
fry, vinegar. Nearly 500 words dealing with food, cooking and eating alone entered English from French, just a fraction of the imports which would enrich the English word hoard in the centuries after the Norman conquest. Within 20 years of taking control of the country, William sent his officers out to take stock of his kingdom. The monks of Peterborough, who were still recording the events of history in English in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, noted disapprovingly that not one piece of land escaped the survey, not even an ox or a cow or a pig. The Domesday Book, there are in fact 2 volumes, show us how complete the Norman takeover of English land was and how widespread their influence and their language. The Norman settlement had concentrated the wealth of England more than ever before or since. The native ruling class from before the conquest had been slaughtered, banished or disinherited in favour of William's followers. Half of the country was in the hands of just 190 men. Half of that was held by just 11 men. And not one of these great landowners spoke English.
Gilberti de Gonde, Raoul d'Insula.
When this record of the country was drawn up, it was written in Latin, not Norman French,
David d'Argent,
and certainly not English.
Ranulph Fitzalgris.
Between them, French and Latin had become the languages of state, law, the church, and history itself in England. The writing of English became increasingly rare. Even the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle guttered into silence.
What we gardena in Yardawum, Theod Kuninga Frunge.
The language of Alfred and the Beowulf poet had lost all the prestige that it had slowly built up. In a country of 3 languages, English was now a poor third, bottom of the pile. The English language had been forced underground. It would take 300 years for it to re-emerge, and when it did, it would have changed dramatically.
The Adventures of English is available as a DVD, audiobook and book at Dymocks and a DVD at JB Hi-Fi.